The corruption of this country has come primarily through the judiciary. Unelected, often lifetime appointments have turned judges at the state and federal level into tyrants. And then once their tyranny takes root, what happens? The public schools become the temples in which the young disciples are catechized into the new orthodoxy. What do you think is going to happen in public schools with small children regarding homosexual marriage? Do you understand that the defining act, or the consummating act rather, of a marriage is having sex? Think about it. Legally, in religion, when two people say we're married, they have to have the sexual union for the marriage to be consummated, completed. The defining act of a same-gender marriage, the defining act is a sin. It's an abomination according to the Word of God. But the government schools are going to be in a position where teachers are going to be told with their curricula that they're going to tell young people, depending on what age, will be depending on what they hear, that this is a marriage, that these acts are wonderful. You should want them. Now, some school teachers will refuse to teach children that these sinful deeds are the equivalent of marriage, and that children should honor and even desire same-sex marriage. Some teachers say, no, I won't do it. And then they'll be fired. They will lose retirement benefits. They'll lose health benefits. Let's go to Christian business owners, churches. They're going to be facing civil lawsuits because they refuse to provide goods and services for so-called homosexual marriages. There will be county officials who refuse to issue marriage licenses. They're going to be fired. They will lose their benefits. Friend, use your imagination. There is no end to where this will take us. That is why we must resist. By the way, tax-exempt status, this could be the death knell for a lot of churches. You've heard me talk about it on this program. So many churches and religious groups refuse to get involved in political fights because they're afraid of losing their tax-exempt status. Well, in the majority opinion, or rather in the minority opinion, the justices alluded, it was either in this one or in Windsor, the one just before it. Anyway, they alluded that they could easily see that tax-exempt status was taken away from organizations who didn't go along with the new orthodoxy. And when they asked the government's lawyer said, yeah, it's very likely. So, just friend, use your imagination. There is no end to the mischief and the evil and the persecution and the oppression that's going to be unleashed because of this. Remember the ancient Roman government's demand that incense be burned to Caesar. Christians said no, and they were accused of being treasonous rebels. Many of them paid with their lives. Now, I don't think that the death sentence awaits those of us who refuse to honor this evil. But be ready. Real persecution will now begin in earnest, and it will come from the hand of government. We are also likely going to see a frightening increase of violence. What do I mean? Well, as the judgment of God descends upon a nation, it often produces great turbulence and violence in that nation. We've seen it as a direct result of killing our babies. You sow blood, you reap blood. But to come back to this decision, look at Sodom and Gomorrah. They were literally destroyed in a very violent way. The 7 Canaanite nations were destroyed by war. God used the Jews to bring his punishment upon those pagan peoples because they murdered their babies and they practiced homosexual sex and bestiality. God said to the Jews, he said, don't defile yourselves in any of these ways, because this is how the nations that I am going to drive out before you became defiled. Even the land was defiled. So I punished it for its sin, and the land vomited out its inhabitants. But you must keep my decrees and my laws, and if you defile the land, it will vomit you out, as it vomited out the nations that were before you. You can't change the laws of God, friend. You can't change the laws of God. And where will judgment begin? I'll tell you when I return. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today.